The flag didn't move. Neither did the old man. Not when the police sirens wailed. Not when the officer ordered him to clear the road, because under that flag lay a soldier who died believing his country would remember him. And beside that coffin stood the only man left who still did. What happened next brought traffic to a stop and reminded a nation what honor really means. He didn't block the road out of pride. He stood there alone, unmoving because of a promise made under gunfire decades ago. The city had begun to stir. It was just past noon, and the sun leaned hard against the pavement, casting long lines of heat across Main Street. Horns had died down. Pedestrians stood at the sidewalks, squinting past coffee cups and shopping bags at the scene in front of them. A long, black hearse sat parked dead center in the lane. Behind it, traffic had formed a hesitant curve, but no one honked now. No one dared. Beside the hearse stood a man, late 70s, maybe older. His frame was rigid, tall even in stillness. A military jacket worn, faded, but clean, clung to his shoulders. On his head, a Vietnam veteran cap sat squarely. His hand rested gently on the casket within the hearse, where the edge of the American flag draped neatly over polished wood. He hadn't moved for 15 minutes, and now a police motorcycle pulled in from the other direction. The rumble echoed off the buildings as the officer dismounted. Dark sunglasses, crisp uniform, a Harley still idling behind him like a nervous animal. He stepped forward briskly, hand raised. "Sir, we have a motorcade en route, a government convoy. I need you to clear the road." The old man didn't respond. His fingers remained on the flag. The officer tilted his head. "Sir, do you hear me? You need to move this vehicle." A breeze lifted the edge of the flag for a moment, like a breath from the coffin itself. Finally, the old man looked up. His face was lined like a topographical map, roads of age and war cut across it. His eyes were steady. "This isn't a vehicle, officer," he said. The officer shifted. "I understand, but this is not a designated area for ceremony. You're blocking federal escort passage." The old man nodded slowly. "That road can wait. My friend can't." Behind them, cameras were coming out now. Phones raised, pedestrians, tourists, workers on lunch break. Something in the air had shifted. The officer pressed his earpiece. "Dispatch. We have a non-compliant individual blocking Route 7. Possible funeral procession. No permit visible." The words fell like bricks. The veteran's hand trembled for half a second. Then he turned back to the flag. "He died believing this country wouldn't forget him," the man murmured. The officer sighed. "I'm asking you one last time. Move it." The man didn't blink, didn't shift. He whispered, "No." A hush moved through the block. Somewhere behind the glass of a cafe window, a mother pulled her child close. Officer Jake Matthews wasn't new to pressure. At 34, with a decade in the department and a clean record, he had handled everything from riots to rescue operations, but nothing in his training had prepared him for the man now standing in his way. The motorcycle beneath him rumbled low as the traffic behind began to bottleneck. Over his radio, dispatch reminded him that the VIP motorcade was 5 minutes out. Jake took a breath, stepped off his Harley, adjusted his sunglasses. He approached the old veteran carefully, but firmly. "Sir," he said, voice crisp, "we need this road cleared. A high-level government convoy is approaching. Please move the casket off the street." The old man didn't flinch. He stood beside the flag-draped coffin like a statue, one hand resting gently on the wood. His back was straight despite the years written in the lines of his face. The old military jacket he wore shimmered slightly in the noon light. Patches faded but unmistakable Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War. He looked at Jake, not with anger, not even with defiance, but with something deeper, something immovable. "That flag," the veteran said, voice calm but resolute, "was earned in blood. I won't let it be rushed out of the way like yesterday's garbage." People were gathering now, passers-by, a mother holding her son's hand, a couple filming on their phone. A city bus slowed to a crawl. Jake glanced at the casket. The sunlight caught the flag just right. It looked almost alive. He turned back to the man. "I understand, sir, but this isn't safe. We're under protocol to clear all main intersections. There's no time." "Then I suggest you make time," the veteran replied. Silence. Jake's earpiece crackled. Matthews. Status update. He turned slightly, voice low. "Still negotiating. We may need backup. There is no time for negotiations. Clear the road. Now." Jake turned back to the man. He was still there, still unmoving. He tried a different angle. "Can I ask who—" Jake hesitated. "Who's in the casket, sir?" The veteran's eyes didn't blink. "My grandson." Jake looked down. "Army specialist. 23. Killed by an IED last month in Kandahar. He loved baseball. Played trumpet in high school. Was supposed to be married next spring." Jake swallowed. The veteran added quietly, "They lost his body for 4 days. When he finally came home, I swore I'd walk with him every step until he's buried. No shortcuts, no back alleys, just the respect he earned." The weight of those words fell like iron in Jake's chest. His radio barked again. 1 minute out. I repeat, 1 minute. Then the sound came sirens, wailing, growing louder. Jake looked left. The motorcade, black SUVs, motorbikes, the hum of a well-oiled machine. Jake stepped forward. "Sir!" The veteran raised his hand. "Let them wait." A second officer jogged up beside Jake. "What the hell is going on? Man, get this guy off the street." Jake didn't answer. Instead, he turned, walked into the street, and raised both hands to stop the convoy. Tires screeched. Engines idled. Windows rolled down. A government aide leaned out. "What is this? We're on a schedule." Jake didn't flinch. Behind him, the veteran slowly reached into his coat and pulled out a folded photograph. He walked forward, held it out. Jake took it. It showed a young man in uniform, laughing beside a jeep, dusty boots, sunglasses, and a note on the back, "Pop, if I don't make it home, give 'em hell for me. Johnny." Jake looked up, and then he turned to the convoy. "We wait." The officer beside him stared. "You serious?" Jake nodded, and behind them, as if by some unspoken command, people began to gather, not out of protest, but out of something deeper, respect. An elderly woman stepped off the sidewalk and placed her hand on the casket. A cyclist dismounted and stood beside the old man. One by one, they came. Not to block traffic, but to bear witness, to stand, for a flag, for a fallen soldier, for a promise. The motorcade had come to a full stop, for the first time in over a decade of escorting senators, governors, and foreign dignitaries. Officer Jake Barnes stood entirely still, not out of indecision, but resolve. Behind him, the wail of radios and confused chatter built into a dissonant chorus. Dispatchers demanded clarification. The lead SUV flashed its lights impatiently, but Jake's eyes were fixed ahead, where a man too old to stand for long had chosen to stand anyway. Beside a coffin wrapped in a flag, a younger officer jogged up beside him. "Sergeant, we have to move. Orders from DNC, direct. This delay is making headlines." Jake didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked quietly, "You ever been to Arlington?" The young officer blinked. "Once." "Field trip?" Jake's jaw flexed. His voice came low. "Then you know what this flag means." Across the street, a woman began to film. Others had already pulled out phones, but something about the scene now demanded silence. as if everyone had been caught inside a moment too sacred to interrupt. The veteran stood still. His breathing was labored, his back slightly hunched, knees stiff, but his hand never left the coffin. Jake stepped forward. "Sir," he said, voice gentler now, "I need to know what's going on here. I want to help you, but I have orders to clear this road." The old man didn't respond at first. Then, slowly, he turned. His eyes were tired, but there was fire behind them. "This boy," he whispered, "was mine, not by blood, but by everything else that counts." Jake tilted his head. "We served in different wars, but he found me when no one else cared. Visited the VA, brought food, laughed like my own son used to. Then he went to serve." The man paused, swallowing hard. "He wrote me once. Said if he didn't make it back, he'd rather I brought him home than anyone else. Said I was the only one who understood." Jake stared at the flag. "I made a promise, officer. He deserves this street." Just for a moment, behind them, the driver of the first SUV stepped out. A federal aide in a suit hurried toward them, anger boiling under his breath. "What the hell is going on here? This motorcade is 5 minutes behind. Who authorized this?" he barked. Jake turned slowly. "I did." The aide scoffed. "Are you insane? This is a national security event. Move the casket." A hush fell again. Jake stood straighter. "Sir, with all respect, this man is honoring a fallen soldier. 1 minute of silence isn't too much to ask." The aide opened his mouth, ready to bark back, and then came the voice. "Stand down." It didn't come from Jake. It came from behind the motorcade. An older man, wearing a crisp dark suit with a lapel pin shaped like an eagle, stepped out of a black car. Those close recognized him, Senator Harold Granger, a decorated Vietnam vet turned lawmaker. The aide froze. The senator walked forward slowly, his steps deliberate. He looked at the casket, then at the old man. He raised his hand in salute. "Carry on, soldier," he said softly. Then turned to Jake. "Sergeant Barnes, you did right. We stopped today. Not for politics, not for press, but for promise." Jake nodded, emotion catching in his throat, and with that, the entire motorcade went quiet. Doors remained closed, lights dimmed, and for the next 2 minutes, the busiest avenue in the city stood still not for authority, but for honor. A child nearby tugged on her mother's hand. Why did everyone stop? "Mom!" The mother knelt beside her. "Because sometimes," she said, voice full of emotion, "we have to remember what's really important." For the next hour, the city buzzed with a different kind of energy. Social media platforms lit up with images of the standoff, the coffin, the old man, the officer in the sunglasses. Some posted in anger about the delay, but most posted in reverence. "I just saw something sacred today." One tweet read, "A flag means nothing until you see a man refuse to move it for power." Read another. The news spread quickly. TV vans pulled up. Local anchors stood in front of the silent street. Voices hushed for once. And in a quiet apartment on the east side, a young widow named Sarah watched it all unfold with her hand over her heart. She recognized the coffin, the design, the ribbons. Her husband, Sergeant Adam Reyes, had died just 6 days ago, and the man standing beside that coffin, her grandfather. Sarah picked up the phone with shaking fingers. When her grandfather answered, he sounded tired but proud. "You did it, Grandpa," she said. He chuckled. "I told you I would. He asked me to." Her voice trembled. They stopped for him. The whole city stopped. He was quiet for a moment. Then maybe this world isn't so lost after all. At the same time, inside the mayor's office, a heated conversation was happening. "Do we support this publicly or keep our distance?" the communications director asked. The mayor, a practical woman in her 50s, glanced at the image on her screen. It was the veteran, his hand on the casket, the police officer standing beside him like a shield. "We support it," she said. "We're not here to manage optics. We're here to honor truth." Back on the street, the veteran finally sat down on a folding chair someone had brought him. Jake Barnes stood beside him, now out of uniform, cap removed, posture relaxed. "You tired yet?" Jake asked. The old man nodded. "Not too tired to remember." People continued to arrive. Strangers, veterans, families holding small flags. A little boy placed a toy soldier at the foot of the casket. Someone started singing softly, "Amazing Grace," and others joined. Jake looked around, realizing something had shifted. What started as confrontation had become ceremony. The sidewalk had become sanctuary. The veteran wiped his eyes, but he was smiling. "He made it home," he whispered. That night, the city didn't forget. The mayor ordered a wreath placed at the center of that intersection. News anchors ended broadcasts with quiet tributes, and in dozens of homes across the country, strangers lit candles for a soldier they never knew. The next morning, a local paper ran a headline above the fold, "The Street That Stood Still." Beneath it, a photo, Jake Barnes standing beside the old veteran and the flag-draped casket, surrounded by civilians, children, and silence. Jake didn't return to duty right away. He took a few days off, needing time to breathe, to process. On the third day, he visited a cemetery just outside the city. There, among the white stones and blowing grass, he found a fresh marker, SGT. Adam Reyes, 1992-2024. He brought others home. Now he rests among them. Someone had placed a folded letter at the base. Jake didn't open it. He didn't have to. He simply stood, hand to heart, and whispered, "Rest easy, brother." Back in the neighborhood, the old veteran still walked slowly to the diner every morning. People knew him now. They greeted him by name. Someone even offered to paint a mural of the day everything stopped. He declined, politely. He didn't need a mural, he said. He just needed to be remembered. A week later, a letter arrived at the precinct. No return address, just a handwritten note. To Officer Barnes, thank you for not moving the casket. Thank you for remembering that a promise made is sacred. In a world that rushes, you made it stop. Respectfully, a grateful American. Jake kept the note in his locker, folded once, tucked beneath his badge. Some promises, after all, are too important to forget.